for us going forward?
I think the proposal.
Okay, thank you, Alina, and thank you, and I hope you have captured the main question. Okay, thank you, colleagues. Unless if you have any or other alternative, I propose that we proceed that way. In which, Maria, could we have the first go? How can the SGSP-IWRM connect with stakeholders for societal impact?
Yes, thank you very much for the opportunity to have a go. Also, in the spirit of what you said, just let's discuss on what we think we can do in this regard. I'm just thinking out loud already. The whole principle of IWRM. So one of the key one is stakeholder involvement, and I feel. As the question is talking about how do we connect with the stakeholders. For me, this workshop or meeting is already one of the activities. Introduce the program to other stakeholders, industry stakeholders. Currently, I only see myself. And I see, I'm not sure Alina is presenting NamWater or is presenting herself. So ideally, if we can identify who are the stakeholders and what are their needs, and how does this program then address those needs? It could be prioritizing them either as they happen. For example, in Namibia, everybody's now on the stamp-rate uranium issues. That could be, you could look at the society's current needs or future needs. So I thought I bring that out now, and then to say who is available as part of the program to carry out some of these activity. And then of course the whole academic issue comes in to make sure that at the end of the day, the papers that comes out strong papers which can be used in an industry. So it's really a matter of identifying also the industry, the society, and what are the key issues happening at a time or future issues. And then we'll see how we can do them through the program. I hand over.
Okay. Thank you so much, Maria. I know colleagues will always raise up their hand. I think you made a very, very critical contributions in which you appreciate that also this forum is part of stakeholder consultations. For we come from quite a number of key stakeholders towards the success of this program. And also you said it's very, very good to identify who are the stakeholders and what are their needs. What are our common areas of interest, and how do we synchronize our priorities for diversity towards advancing the subject matter and bringing solutions that can take us forward? And what are the key issues and what are the future projections within our mandate? I can see that we have something at the chat. Okay, so at the chat we have the question is actually available at the chat, and the sub questions you can keep on reflecting on them from this side. Okay, so now based on what Maria has given, first of all, colleagues, I think stakeholder mapping, like she's giving inferences to, is very, very key. What are these stakeholders before we can even start off connecting with them? So these categories of stakeholders, colleagues, we can be looking at policymakers, parastatals, other universities, industry, bilateral partners. When you look at the questions, of course, they have been posed in terms of connecting with communities, industry, and policymakers. But of course, bilateral partners, which include donor countries, like this, what actually funds this program from the German government is very, very key. Also, we have to be mindful of appreciating those gestures and maintaining those relationships. Also, multilateral partners, development banks, and so on, Waternet, UNESCO, these are very, very key also, in which here we are looking at people or groupings with like-minded mandates forming these some of these regional or international entities. Also, we are looking at the public or communities, which is specifically indicated in the sub-question, and the students themselves, who are the key stakeholders in the learning, and also the university constituency or staff, who are very, very key in helping the institution to deliver on its mandate. So colleagues, these are the categories of stakeholders as we move forward, which we can always think about in carrying on from what Maria has put forward. But then we have a lot of literature on the importance of stakeholders in higher education. Learning like Wicks in 1994 says stakeholders have relationship that adds value and meaning to the organization. And what did we connect for? Why do we need the connection? Before we go to the connection and taking forward from what Maria has put forward, I would like colleagues maybe to comment if there is anything on the category of stakeholders which I've just highlighted, in case you want to comment something or add or just say anything, colleagues. You can just show by raise of a hand or just chip in. Okay, Prof. Jean Mark.
Yeah, thanks, Prof. But it's actually, Doctor. Just a clarification. What is your special boundary?
Okay.
Okay, I understand the need to also be relevant globally, but is it continental? Is it SADC? Is it what's the special boundary of the program?
Okay, thank you, Doc. Actually, the boundary of the program, of course, when we talk, we say the program should be regional or local in content, but global in outlook, for we are within the global setup. So at the end of the day, we are looking at what is just our immediate needs here, locally and regionally. And at the end of the day, also, we are benchmarking internationally, for we need that visibility and credibility globally. So at the end of the day, I think it's spanning across all the spatial scales, Doc. I hope that is helpful, Doc.
Yeah, it's very helpful. But yeah, although we want to be relevant at all the scales, there should always be one that supersedes the other, and it seems that it's the regional. And when we look at this region in terms of water, we still have a lot of challenges that globally differ from one region to another. And therefore, even our markets, our target market is very different. So I don't know, did they ever do a market analysis just to understand what are the actual needs? And I will have more of an outlook, because yeah, currently it is good, but when you train PhD, we talk about 3 years or so. So you want them to be competitive for the coming decades. So you really need to have this to make projections. So was that done, or it's something that still needs to be done? I apologize. I just totally missed the first session. I had some clutches at the office. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Doc. I think those are very, very important questions. Of course, there have been some needs assessment, but of course, the program has been conceptualized within the regional needs of SADC. but of course, appreciating that our products also have to be marketable globally. Of course, advancement of the science, the knowledge will always be applicable irrespective of where you are. But at the end of the day, trying to customize them to solving our key challenges, in which also our products, they should be adaptable and that they can also apply themselves to different environments, and they can also interact within the global community. Thank you, Doc. I think those we take note of, but like I am saying, those have been taken care of. Needs assessment have been done, and we have involved the regional experts. We have also involved the international experts. I think those have been taken care of. Over time, we can still discuss this more. I think that's fine. We are taking note of this so that we don't take our eyes off the ball. We balance between these. I think that's fine, Doc. Okay. Thank you, colleagues. I think we continue then. At the end of the day, we have identified the need to do stakeholder mapping. Appreciate the different stakeholders and their mandates, and what it means for us within our mandate as running the program as an academic institution, to kind of create synergies to see how we can be relevant and we can help our society in terms of skills capacity building, skills development, and also advancing the knowledge and the science of the subject matter, that we can also be relevant globally, and also communicate our case studies and share experiences with others from other regions. I think that is fine. I have some key points that I would like to also highlight here in terms of what do we connect for. Of course, having also touched on the bilateral partners and the multilateral partners, and also policy, because government also is very, very key. Government also have their networks from which we can leverage for funding for sustainability. Also, government has a lot of a strong hand in these public institutions. Of course, we connect because we need to appreciate all the stakeholders and their need, because we need funding for sustainability. That is very, very key. We need partnerships for visibility, relevance, and diversity. We need to bring solutions to societal challenges. And we also need to produce well-rounded postgraduates and with appropriate skills. So this, in a nutshell, actually is what we need in terms of the stakeholders that we have put forward as something that we have to look at. Anybody who wants to make some comment, especially on the categories of the stakeholders and why we need to connect with stakeholders? Now, since the questions are here also on the chat, let me recast the subordinate question. How can the program connect with the communities, industry, and policymakers to provide practical solutions related to well-being, environment, society, and the economy? The first point that came in is stakeholder mapping, in terms of identifying them, looking at their mandates, and looking at the current needs, the projections within our mandate going forward. Colleagues, is this enough to answer this question? Do you have any other contributions or any questions?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, I agree with what the contributors or the participants say in terms of the mapping, the mandate, and the aligning or trying to approach a solution-based kind of tasking so that we are meeting their needs. And of course, maybe we can supplement with what we know as global or acceptable practices in terms of IWRM. But what I've noted is that IWRM is a very, very large concept. It's a very large concept. So and it entails so many things. Practically, I think we will need an action plan with actual attainable activities and how they are going to be rolled out. Because you have IWRM, just the legislation part of it, it's very, very complex. You have your funding for that, whether it's infrastructure, whether it's capacity building, whether it's, because you might also need capacity. Currently, NAST, I don't know how many experts they are having on this program, and if they are available for an actual rollout at all levels, because we have stakeholders at maybe national levels, regional levels, and even community levels. We are talking maybe villages, their leaders and their members. So practically speaking, what will the program do, or how will they do this? I think I'm more interested on the realistic how. And taking into account the whole umbrella of IWRM, there's so much under IWRM. If you go to just river basins, that's a whole scope on its own. If you go on capacity building, you're talking maybe the real skills, you're talking software, you're talking data management, you're talking so many things. So how do we make this practical and attainable and not just something we write down or speak of?
Okay. Thank you so much, Alina. I think that's a very handful contributions. The sense being that as much as we connect with stakeholders, we have to be very, very mindful of the target stakeholders and what is practicable and what are the challenges, because IWRM can be very, very complex with the legal jargon involved. It has many facets: infrastructure, capacity development. As much as we talk IWRM, especially when we talk about local, bringing local solutions, taking the public and the local stakeholders, the regional stakeholders on board, we have to mind that we communicate and understand each other, and what we communicate or what we stand for, we make it very real so that it's not very abstract. I know just before you came in, there was also a post from Maria. Based on the SASCAL notes, the consultations can take place at country level and will contribute to regional database. I think this is a very, very critical aspect also, because we have already established these country offices, which are referred to as nodes. We have to leverage from these. They have their own stakeholders. That's why also for the research chair work plan, one of our initiatives also is to take advantage of these SASCAL nodes and identify maybe a key influential government officer who have influence on policy, strategy, and direction, who we can also link our students with for relevance, because then we can get a lot on what are the country needs from that side. Also, these government representatives, they have their own networks. And then that way, in terms of visibility and buy-in of our programs, that's another avenue through which we can really take the program to the policy makers within the SADC region. And also because the SASCAL knows also, this is where the databases are in terms of the stakeholders. This is an avenue that we also have to take advantage of. I think this point is clearly noted. I think Alina also taking note of this. There's also a poster from Gwangwawa. Practical solutions can be possible if you take the problem tree analysis approach of the needs and challenges. Okay, so it shouldn't only be just connecting with the stakeholders. When mapping the stakeholders, we have to also look at some of these aspects, like doing in-depth problem tree analysis approach to really tease out the needs and challenges and bring them to the table in a way that they can bring practical collaborations and partnerships. And that was also from Dr. Jane Mark. If the needs assessment is available, you must have identified the stakeholders. It is a compulsory step of any need assessment. For the continental and regional relevance, the program must respond to the African Union Agenda 2063, the SADC Regional Strategic Action Plan. For industry, use labor market data, both industry and occupation data, to verify the viability, timelines, and relevance of the program. In terms of the needs assessment, I know that it's still an ongoing activity, because at the end of the day, we have to register the SGSP-IWRM PhD program, in which students can directly apply for the program in NAST, unlike the current setup whereby students are spread across related faculties. And as we are doing this, let me assure you that the needs assessment is ongoing, is going through different phases. And of course, as the water family, I know that sometimes maybe some consultations, sometimes some individuals, there are some chances that they can sometimes miss some consultations. But this has been ongoing, and also is very much anchored within the SADC Regional Strategic Plan and the AU Agenda for 2063. I can assure you, Doc, these are taken care of, and we'll also relay this to the Secretariat in terms of this information on the needs assessment that can be shared as much as possible with all our stakeholders, including you. For industries, I think these are taken care of. I would ask Alina also to copy this as much as she consolidates the report, the way she interprets it, but also copy this as they are somewhere, because this will be consolidated. They will help us going forward. Thank you, colleagues. Okay. So, colleagues, I think we move forward. And I think in terms of stakeholder involvement, the idea of stakeholder mapping is very, very clear. Identifying the stakeholders, consulting them, looking at their mandates hours within the framework of the needs of the societies from which all these stakeholders operate within. And we have to look at the local context more than the global outlook in consulting for this IWRM, and do the required detailed needs assessment within the local context. This local context also referring to actually meaning the regional, as much as also we know that the program is run from Namibia. I think those issues we very much appreciate. They will be taken care of. The communication will be very, very critical here, and packaging the aspects of IWRM within the framework that our people can better appreciate and understand them, moving away from abstract concepts to practicality, bringing solutions to the problem, capacitating them. It could be this short courses or this PhD level training. At the end of the day, we are capacitating our people to manage water resources within our context, but at the same time, being able to pitch them where possible at a global scale, so that we can really exchange ideas and appreciate and digest what other regions are within. I think this is very clear. So colleagues, I think we continue. Let me recast or come back to the questions again. How can the SGSP-IWRM connect with stakeholders for societal impact? Of course, when we started, we tried also to define what is the mandate and the role of an academic institution where the program is run. Of course, I think that we touched on it, and also on what this societal impact is. I think I will go over the societal impact again, because this is very, very key. We are looking at advancing knowledge and capacity development. We are looking at programs that are relevant, relevant, which are consulted with the needs assessment made. Some elements of how we should go about the needs assessment have been highlighted. With the regular reviews and feedback from the qualifications authorities. I think globally also, we know that when we register programs, there is opportunity, there's also a requirement for program reviews after regular time intervals, which also they can also be reviewed even before the 5-year, which is usually standard, comes in. So I think those aspects are very, very key. And the programs also should bring solutions to societal challenges. Like I know that Maria also mentioned something like in terms of the needs from industry, from government policy and all other stakeholders, our research topics should be guided by the needs there, because we have to do relevant and appropriate research. That usually helps our people, that there is buy-in, also people know what we are doing. Also in that way, we are marketing our products, even for employability after this. Also under societal impact, I think the issue of partnerships with policymakers, industry, communities for co-creation, multi-interdisciplinarity is very, very key. As we map the stakeholders, we have to be mindful of this, see who we interact with for what, and what are the major influences. And then this is also very good for visibility, because people have to be aware of what we are offering, and there should be some synergies on how they can also influence or give us feedback. I think this is what I get from what we have covered so far in terms of how the program can connect with stakeholders under the aspect of stakeholder mapping. There were questions under this: how can the program connect with communities? I think more or less we have talked about this. And there's the second question: how can the program produce highly sought after graduates for the current global market? Colleagues, as we move towards the wrapping up the program, I would need your further comments, especially under this sub question, which mostly this talks more on the quality of the postgraduate that we are developing. Okay, there are other post from Maria based on the SASCAL notes. I think these ones we have covered. I think we don't have any post currently on this. Colleagues, anything from your side? Because also as we move on, I think in terms of the how we develop highly sought out graduates, I think it will depend on the relevance of our program, how it is conceptualized within the pertinent needs of the region, and how we also consult and do appropriate needs assessment for this program. I think that will be key in the type of postgraduate we are producing in terms of marketability, and also in terms of advancing the science and the subject matter, advancement of knowledge. This will be very, very key in that they can adapt even globally to where they go. The science aspect is as critical as the policy impact and contributing towards societal challenges in the local context here, the local context referring to the SADC region, which is the anchor of our program. There's also a comment from Gwangwawa. Programs should be responsive to Agenda 2030 Sustainable Development Goals. Yes, we very much appreciate this. And of course, when you look at SDG 6 also, it has targets and their respective global indicators: 6.1 drinking water, 6.2 sanitation and hygiene, 6.3 water quality and wastewater, 6.4 water use and scarcity, 6.5 water resources management. And when you look at these global indicators under this SDG, you will see that the thematic areas of the program also are framed within this, and also within the context of SADC, what it is for us as a region. Okay, so something that we have to be mindful also is the type of stakeholder relationships. There are some elements of the stakeholder relationships which we have to be aware of for the sustainability of the program. We have power relations between organizations, stakeholders, which you also have to be aware of as we develop the program. Some of them, there will be dominant stakeholders in which the organization will depend on such stakeholder, and the stakeholders will have power over the organization. This is within the whole array of the stakeholders which we have touched on. Some of them might be donor countries. Of course, we have to appreciate that they will have more influence. At the end of the day, we have to scan through the stakeholders and appreciate what influence each will have and so on. Sometimes we can have a stakeholder institution relationship in which the organization is dominant, in which the stakeholders are dependent on the organizations. We very much have to appreciate and be clear on what we think the dependents on us are, where we are having equal partnerships it is, and which stakeholders really would be dominant over us. Like when we talk about policymakers, government, if it's a public funded institution framework, then they should be dominant on us. There will be some instances when also what comes from the government sometimes takes more weight. And also, we have from this also the issue of potential to influence operation of the organization, the stakeholders that we deal with or relate with also, depending on how we look at the stakeholder relationships, we should be aware of how they can influence our operations and our mandate. But of course, the mandate mostly will be there and so on. Some of the stakeholder relationships could be contractual relationships in which the stakeholders have a claim on the organizations and they have something at risk. So all these, at the end of the day, the idea is that they're taken into consideration when we connect with the stakeholders. But at the end of the day is to make sure that we offer relevant programs, we crystallize them to helping us advance in terms of socio-economic and social and developmental advancements, but also advancing the science and the knowledge. Okay. So colleagues, I am of the idea that we have exhausted the discussion on the main question that was posed to us. I think we have had a very valuable inputs from ourselves. And as Alina will be presenting on our behalf that side, will be supporting her, and colleagues also will be making contributions from different viewpoints. And let me also say that it doesn't end here. We always feel free to submit any contributions, comments, suggestions to the SGSP-IWRM Secretariat as much as possible. This program is for us, all of us. I don't know if we have left out anything, colleagues, but I was of the conviction that we have addressed the question holistically. Dr. Jean-Marc?
No, yes, I don't know, but personally, I think it would have been useful if we had a better understanding and as in the form of what has been produced so far, so that we can make meaningful contribution. So if in the future you have such document, I think it will help to have them distributed before such meetings. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doc. I think that is very much appreciated. What I will promise is that we will grow together, and those are the contributions, suggestions that we need. I think that is very much noted, Doc. Thank you so much. Anybody, colleagues? Hello, Christine.
Yes, Prof. Mwanafi. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. No, I've listened to the discussion that the colleagues had, but so far I think the questions were addressed. I'm actually looking at the question again just to make sure that I'm not missing anything, because I'm also taking my own notes that I have to report thereafter later. I'm just reading again just to make sure. I actually might have missed, or maybe I did not follow quite properly the how part. How can the program connect with communities and industries? Is that where we talked about the alignment with the AU and also making sure that we have an action plan with attainable outcomes, or were those the answers to that question, the how part? How can we connect with communities to and policy makers also to provide practical solutions related to well-being and environment of the society and the economy as well? I might have missed that how part specifically.
Okay.
The second question, the second question after that, I got the answer. How can the program produce highly sought after graduates? That one I understand, but the connection is what maybe I'm kind of missing.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Christine, for the how part. How can the program connect with communities, industry, and policy makers to provide practical solutions related to well-being, environment, society, and the economy? Okay, so I'll try to just summarize or make an overview of what, in my opinion, I think we're speaking to this how part.
Thank you,
The idea was the stakeholder mapping, in which for the stakeholders, the idea is to identify the stakeholders, map them in terms of their mandates and what they have, the areas that we have common interests with them, and the synergies that we can form with them. This also informed by our own action plan with timelines on what is feasible, what is practical, and what we can achieve, and with appropriate time frames, in which these stakeholders, then the idea is working with them will be critical for helping in terms of visibility of the program, crystallizing our mandate where we overlap with them, for them to appreciate that we can partner with them to solve or to advance also their mandates. But here we are mostly looking at more than even we talk of stakeholders, we are looking at what an academic institution offering a program is guided by. But what we are saying is that, yes, we need to make this to be more accommodative, to be consulted with the needs assessment done on what our key stakeholders expect in terms of delivering these programs, so that more than that, we are doing capacity building, we are advancing the subject matter and the knowledge, we are bringing solutions to problems jointly in partnerships with societies, so that our solutions and our program is more diverse, is well consulted, is appreciated, and is more visible. I think it was along those areas. I don't know if Maria or Alina want to add something to this, because also they made some contributions, even Gwangwawa and Jean Mark, any of them can add to this, maybe.
Okay, thank you so much, Prof. I understand now, and I also get what Batanai is also typing in the chat box, but I get the answer now. Stakeholder mapping, identifying synergies, and also crystallizing the mandates, and also through capacity building. So that is very well noted. Thank you, Prof.
Okay. Thank you so much. And I see Gwangwawa also in typing here, participatory research. I think this is very, very key, where we conceptualize our research from the grassroots level. The idea of these collaborations and partnerships, appreciating our stakeholders, in which also we appreciate their feedback, is that even when we do research, it should be informed by challenges, societal challenges that actually needs to be addressed there, which of course, yes, when we come to the academic realm, of course, we can talk academically. That's why even when we publish, when the products of research you target the products as per different target audience. You can take them to the public domains to rub shoulders with the global community, the scientific community. At the same time, also producing policy briefs or taking the products now, packaging them as per the key stakeholders within our context. That is very, very key. And that's what we call a well-rounded research. I think this is what is coming here is participatory research, workplace programs, internships. Internships also very, very important for our postgraduate students to have the feel out there, to be linked, and also for them to appreciate what research stands for. It's mostly to advance the subject matter and to bring solutions to our people. We work within our context, but then advancing the subject matter, we are not saying you are cut off from the global scientific community and the ethics which are available there. So we have to look at producing well-rounded postgraduates who actually fit into the society. Also, we are marketing them. We are also marketing the program, and people will actually see that this is a program that actually works for us, and the sustainability more or less is given a lift in this way. Okay. So colleagues, I will now just round up by going to individuals. Maria, do you want to say something when we move towards returning back to the main forum that side?
I feel that we have discussed and addressed all the questions. And I think if the process continues, we should be able to come up with a proper, I'm not sure we are going to have a write-up or just a process on the way forward. How do we carry out these things? If this is what we are saying needs to be done, how do we do it? But of course, it needs the commitment of everybody. That's why I'm saying when it comes to awareness raising, in most cases, you hear the program only through the students, but how do we take it back to the industry, to the stakeholders, to the society? Is really why I said have that awareness. But I think we have addressed most of them. Okay.
Thank you so much, Maria. I think those are very great contributions. It's very, very, I'm learning a lot at the end of the day, because there's a development of this sustainability kind of strategy. I think those will be taken into consideration. What will happen, whatever actually transpires from here, those will be taken on board and will always be coming back to you to say, on such and such we consulted, these were some of the ideas that you put forward, and what do you think? Are we taking them forward as you would expect to? We'll always be doing this guided by you as much as possible going forward. Thank you so much. I hope also Lina is capturing some of these, even though if some of them may not necessarily be part of what is going to summarize, but capturing them for detailing. I think that's important. Gwangwawa, do you have anything to say as we move towards closing? Thank you. But Tanai, it's fine?
Yes, I'm fine.
Oh, okay, thank you so much. And my apologies for struggling with your name. I'm a bad person, don't worry. Okay. Okay.
Even my countrymen struggle with it.
Yes, maybe I will have to, but I'll practice it for some time. The next time I'm going to surprise you. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. And Jean-Marc, do you have anything, Doc, to say before we give to Alina, maybe to highlight key issues from our discussions? Dr. Jean-Marc?
No, Doc, I'm largely covered. I think the only thing is the link with community. It is not a simple exercise to establish, but I think as long as at country level and more local level, there is an understanding of what the needs are, then yeah, it can ease that exercise. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you so much, Doc. Thank you. Alina, do you want to say something? I don't know if maybe I'll be stretching you unnecessarily if I ask you maybe to highlight the key points of the discussions. But even if you don't highlight them, but say your last word, that's fine. But if you also, maybe colleagues who want to highlight the key pointers from this discussion, let me hear from you.
Okay, well, I was actually writing with my pen because I'm faster on the pen than on the computer because I was trying to type up something.
Okay.
That maybe I could forward and then it can be edited if I missed something. The discussion was pretty fast, but I think I got some of the key areas. From what I gathered is to answer the bigger question of how can the SGSP connect with stakeholders for societal impact. I think first it was understanding what is the impact we are talking about here, which is advancing knowledge and capacity building and creating programs that provide practical solutions to societal needs, and also partnership with industries, policymakers, and other relevant stakeholders. So to do that, I think the first starting point, since the keyword here is the program and the stakeholders and the impact that we are after, which we have established what type of impact that is now we need to connect to stakeholders by identifying who are those stakeholders, what are their mandates, what are their needs, and how can the program meet their needs. And some of the stakeholders were already mentioned here, which were policymakers, industries, other university buy and multilateral partners. We have donor countries, and for this particular one, we are recognizing the efforts that has been made by the German government or the German bodies that are involved here. And then there's UNESCO, WaterNet, and government, and also government networks, since governments tend to have their own networks, which can be instrumental in helping. And then there was also a question of what is the boundary of the program, which I think will help to say how far are the stakeholders and the societal impact that we're trying to see. I noted that the program as having a scope of all special scales globally, regionally, in which case the region is SADC. But I think for now, we are looking more on the local context, which is now the SADC, and we just need to do our extensive need analysis for the region. And then I think that is that from the stakeholder side. And then we need to produce well-rounded postgraduates with relevant skills in the current global market. And I think that will be helped a lot if we align what we are doing with the relevant activities and the relevant projects, like the likes of the stamp rate which was given. I think the government is more likely to endorse, or the qualification authority, if we are doing work that is relevant and providing much needed solutions. What did I miss?
Okay, I think that's fine. I think you covered them brilliantly well. Of course, there were something like also we need an action plan or an attainable activities, and also we need to domesticate the whole IWRM concept to the local context, because we can have some sub-components which could be complex. I think it was just a caution, but of course we have covered these, but some of these can be highlighted a little bit. And some of the challenges was linked with communities. It's not always easy, but of course the colleagues appreciated that efforts are made in that regard. Okay. I think in all that should be fine. And maybe something that maybe I know you have covered it. There was another question on why do we need to connect with stakeholders? And of course, something that you will see is that the question was mostly focusing on communities, industry, and policymakers. So we tried to look at the wide range of stakeholders to say we have to appreciate all of them, like the issue of multilateral and bilateral partners that we captured very nicely. And then there was also some aspect on why do we need to connect. We said, first, we need funding for sustainability. It's a very, very key aspect of this sustainability workshop that should inform the strategy. And then the second point was, why do we need this funding also? Partnerships for visibility, relevance, and diversity. Okay. Stop me if I'm moving fast, because also I'll just say them so that you capture them. I'm sorry because I'm chairing, sometimes typing here becomes a challenge. And then the other one on why the need to connect with stakeholders is we need to bring solutions to societal challenges. There is this need, and hence the connection. Because then when you look at this wide spectrum of stakeholders, we are actually speaking, these are stakeholders, they operate within societies. Then we'll have addressed this. And then the other point why we need to connect is to produce, like you said, to produce well-rounded postgraduates with appropriate skills. And this will be attainable because the programs have been consulted for, needs assessment have been made, and so on. And they are periodically reviewed, and these are registered and accredited within the national qualification authorities of relevant of Namibia, for example, in which needs assessment, the relevance are very, very key, and other aspects like you indicated. Okay. And towards the end also, we said in terms of stakeholders, also we have to be mindful of stakeholder relationships, which sometimes, if you are not careful, they can derail our mandate. We have to clearly define our mandate and be accommodative where there could be some variance here and there, because we are not necessarily going to find stakeholders who would exactly buy into the whole of our mandate. There will be some give and take here and there. Some of the stakeholders, they may end up being dominant stakeholders to the extent that they it's like they influence more of what we can do, in which maybe sometimes it might be as if we have limited independent thinking. So it's a dicey situation. It's always good to appreciate the stakeholder relationships within what type of stakeholder we are dealing with, where do we overlap with them, in which we can advance each other's mandate for the sake of human service. And also, yeah, I think in a nutshell, that's the little that I wanted to add there, but you have captured everything brilliantly. Thank you so much. I don't know, I think colleagues, that's what we have heard from Alina. I propose that we accept her summary as it is, in which she will represent us that side, but we will always be there where she needs us to chip in. That's my proposal, and colleagues, you can, if you support this, you can just raise up your hand, and I will know that now we return to the main room. Fourth. Thank you, and thank you, colleagues. I think, thank you. Thank you. I think we are done. Thank you for the support. It was very great working with you and with your knowledge, your guidance. Thank you so much. We did it. Hello, Christine.
Oh, I thought, yes, Prof, I thought Batanai's hand was up.
Okay.
Or did I miss it? I think.
No, it's because you had asked us to raise our hands if we are okay with the brief.
With the
okay.
Okay. Oh, sorry. Thank you. Yeah, it was to raise up the hands when they supported the proposal. I think we are done, colleagues. When I look at the program, we are supposed to move to the plenary at 12. I think now it's 6 to 12. I think we managed the time very well. So I propose that we return to the main room. And thank you, colleagues. I think I'm making even more networks. It's really a pleasure to get to know you, colleagues. Thank you. I think what we do from here is just we go to the return button there, then it will take us to the next room. I can see that Batani is typing something. Okay. We'll wait until they finish and then we all move to the next. Thank you, Maria, for your endorsements. Thank you, colleagues. Let's just move to the other room. Thank you. Bye.